though she wasn't interested in the design.
"Oh, yes,"
she said, her voice dead level.
"You know of a better way, do you?"
"You could magic it a light." Granny paid great attention to arranging bits of twig on the reluctant flames.
"How would I do that?"
she said, apparently addressing her remarks to the fireback. Said Esk. I can't remember, but you must know anyway, don't you? Everyone knows you can do magic."
"There's magic,"
said Granny.
"And then again, there's magic. The important thing, my girl, is to know what magic is for and what it isn't for. And you can take it from me, it was never intended for lighting fires. You can be absolutely certain of that. If the Creator had meant us to use magic for lighting fires, he wouldn't have given us, matches."
"But could you light a fire with magic?" said Esk, as Granny slung an ancient black kettle on its hook. "I mean, if you wanted to, if it was allowed."
"Maybe,"
said Granny, who couldn't. Fire had no mind, it wasn't alive, and they were two of the three reasons. "You could light it much better."
"If a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing badly,"
said Granny, fleeing into aphorisms, the last refuge of an adult under siege.
"Yes, but me no buts."
Granny rummaged in a dark wooden box on the dresser. She prided herself on her unrivalled knowledge of the properties of Ramtop's herbage. No one knew better than she the many uses of earwort, maiden's wish, and love lies oozing. But there were times when she had to resort to her small stock of jealously traded and carefully hoarded medicines from fawn parts, which, as far as she was concerned, was anywhere further than a day's journey, to achieve the desired effect. She shredded some dry red leaves into a mug, topped it up with honey and hot water from the kettle, and pushed it into Esk's hands. Then she put a large round stone under the grate. Later on, wrapped in a scrap of blanket, it would make a bed warmer. And with a stern injunction to the girl not to stir from the chair, went out into the scullery. Esk drummed her heels on the chair legs and sipped the drink. It had a strange peppery taste. She wondered what it was. She'd tasted Granny's brews before, of course, with a greater or lesser amount of honey in them, depending on whether she thought you were making too much of a fuss. And Esk knew that she was famous throughout the mountains for special potions, for illnesses that her mother, and some young women too, once in a while, just hinted at with raised eyebrows and lowered voices. When Granny came back, she was asleep. She didn't remember being put to bed, or Granny bolting the windows. Granny Weatherwax went back downstairs and pulled her rocking chair closer to the fire. There was something there, she told herself, lurking away in the child's mind. She didn't like to think about what it was, but she remembered what had happened to the wolves, and all that about lighting fires with magic. Wizards did that. It was one of the first things they learned. Granny sighed. There was only one way to be sure, and she was getting rather old for this sort of thing. She picked up the candle and went out through the scullery into the lean-to that housed her goats. They watched her without fear, each sitting in its pen like a furry blob, 3 mouths working rhythmically on the day's hay. The air smelled warm and slightly flatulent. Up in the rafters was a small owl, one of a number of creatures who found that living with Granny was worth the occasional inconvenience. It came to her hand at a word, and she stroked its bullet head thoughtfully as she looked for somewhere comfortable to lie. A pile of hay it would have to be. She blew out the candle and lay back, with the owl perched on her finger. The goats chewed, burped, and swallowed their way through their cosy night. It made the only sound in the building. Granny's body stilled. The owl felt her enter its mind and graciously made room. Granny knew she would regret this, borrowing twice in one